Did you know that you have multiple desktops on your Mac, or you could have more than one desktop on your Mac? This is done through Mission Control and it's called Spaces. Basically, what we're able to do is add more spaces or desktops for our different applications. Let's see how spaces, or what I would call virtual desktops or multiple desktops, work on the Mac. Let's go to my Mac. Now, before we get started, the first thing I want to mention is, even though I am using macOS Ventura, if we go up to the Apple menu here and we go to About This Mac, you're going to see that I'm using macOS Ventura. This is not a macOS Ventura specific feature. This is a macOS 10 feature, which means it's been around since macOS 10 has been around. So if you're using an older version of macOS, you're going to have these same features. They really haven't changed too much with spaces and mission control. So now, what is a space? What is a desktop? I'm going to close this, and when we're looking at a Mac, when you're working on your Mac, what you're looking at is your desktop. When you place a folder on your Mac here, you're placing it on your desktop. This desktop here is a space. So everything that I put within this desktop here, let's go ahead and open up a Finder window. What I did is I installed that, or opened up that window into that space. So when I open up a new calendar window, what is it going to do? It's going to open up in that space. I go to Safari. What is it going to do? It's going to open up in that space. Now, the problem with this is these spaces start getting full of all of your different windows. And if you want to work with multiple applications, what you're going to have to do is jumble them around, move them around to get to your different applications. Well, what we're able to do is move these to different spaces, or what I call desktops. How do we do that? Well, this is done through Mission Control. So we have a few different ways to do that. On your keyboard, you're going to see above F3, so in the upper left-hand corner, you're going to see a key with 3 rectangles on it. When you tap on that, what it's going to do is go into Mission Control. So that's the first thing we need to do, is go into Mission Control. I tap on it again, it brings us out. Now, if you have a Mac with a trackpad, what you can do is you can swipe up with 3 or 4 fingers. So I just take 3 fingers and I swipe up on the trackpad. It goes into Mission Control. Now, I'm not going to get into Mission Control here. There's a lot of features that come with Mission Control. What we're going to focus on here is spaces. Now, when you look up towards the top, you're going to see that I have desktop. So this is my desktop. This is where all of my windows are. You can say I have 3 windows open in this desktop. Now, what we're able to do is add more desktops. How do we do that? Well, if we go over to the right, you're going to see I have this little plus here. And when I click on the plus, watch what happens. I've just added a new desktop. This is why I call it desktop, because it's labeled desktop 2 and I have desktop 1. So now when I click on this, I'm looking at these 3 windows here. And if I want to go to the second desktop, I just swipe up with 3 fingers or hit that Mission Control button. And I go over to desktop 2. Click on it. There's my second desktop. We only have 1 desktop folder, so you're going to see that I have my untitled folder here as well. So even though I have 2 desktops or 2 spaces, I still only have 1 desktop folder. So when I go to that other desktop here, you're going to see I have that same untitled folder. So it's 1 desktop folder, but I have multiple desktops or spaces. Another way of switching between these is by using the Control key and the arrow keys. So when I hold down the Control key and I click on the right arrow, it goes to that second desktop. I click on the left arrow, it goes back to the first desktop. Let's go and add another desktop. How do we do that? We go to our Mission Control. I'm going to go to F3. I click on the plus, and now I have another desktop. So now I have 3 desktops. What does that do for me? Well, what we're able to do is move these different windows to those desktops. How do we do that? Well, we go back into Mission Control. So I'm going to swipe up with 3 fingers. Again, I have a MacBook Air with a trackpad, so I swipe up with 3 fingers. I have my 3 desktops here. And let's say I wanted to move Safari over to desktop 2. All I have to do is just take Safari. You're going to see that there's a blue border around it because my cursor is over top of it. When I take this and drag it to desktop 2, it's going to move Safari over to desktop 2. I let go, and now when we go to desktop 1, Safari is no longer in there. I want to go to Safari. All I have to do is go to desktop 2. I just use Control and the right arrow, and now I'm looking at Safari. I want to go back to my Finder window, Control and the left arrow. I'm back at desktop 1. So let's move the calendar app over to desktop 3. How do we do that? We just go into Mission Control, and I just drag my calendar over to desktop 3. And now my calendar is in desktop 3, or space 3. I have Safari in desktop 2, and I have my Finder window in desktop 1. We can move these around. Let's go back into Mission Control. If I want desktop 3 to be next to desktop 1, all I have to do is just take this and drag it. And now my calendar app is in between Safari and the Finder window. So we can move these around just by dragging and dropping. If you want to move a window out of it, all you have to do is just go to that desktop and then drag the window over to the desktop that you want. And it'll move it out of that one desktop into the other desktop. And you can have more than one window in a desktop. So what you're able to do is group different applications together by desktop or space. So when you're working with specific applications, let's say you're working with Safari and Pages, you could open that up in one space. If you're working with numbers and the calculator, you could open that up in another space and then just switch between them. To close a desktop or close a space, we go back into Mission Control, and when we move our cursor up to the top, you're going to see that there's a little X in the upper left-hand corner. All I have to do is just click on that X, and when I do, what it's going to do is it's going to move these windows, Safari and my calendar, over to another desktop. So let's go ahead and close this and watch what happens. It's not going to close those apps. What it's going to do is move them to a different space or desktop. So I click on the X. I'm now down to 2, and you can see that it moved Safari and the calendar over to desktop 1. Now let's take a look at a few different tips for this. What we're able to do is drag files between these different desktops. Let's say I wanted to move this file here over to a folder in another desktop or to an application in another desktop. How can I do that? Well, all I need to do is just drag this and use the Control and the arrow key. I switch to another desktop, and you're going to see that I still have that file. So I'm able to move this to a different window, or if I had an application in here, I'd be able to move it to that application. I'm going to go and bring it back. Control left arrow brings it back, and now we're there. We can also just drag a window up towards the top, and it'll go into Mission Control automatically. So all I have to do is just take this window. Let's say I wanted to move it. I just take it, and I move it up towards the top. And you're going to see that Mission Control opened, and I can move it over to another window. We can even do that with files. So let's go back over to this file. I want to move this to a different desktop. Maybe I have an application open in another desktop, and I need to open it up. I want to use drag and drop. Maybe I have Mail open. I want to open it up, and I want to place it in a Mail app. So all I have to do is just drag this up. I take this, and I bring it up towards the top, all the way up towards the top of the display. You can see I still have that document. I just drag it to the other application. I wait, and now what I'm able to do is add this to my Mail app, or in this case here, Safari. So we can also use drag and drop to manage our different desktops or spaces and even move files between our different spaces. So that is how Spaces, or how we can create multiple desktops on the Mac, works. Basically, again, this is done through Mission Control. So all you need to do is just open up Mission Control. You can do that through the app, which is in the Applications folder. You can also just swipe up with 3 fingers if you have a trackpad, or you can hit the Mission Control button on the keyboard. Once you do that, you're able to view all of your different spaces or desktops. You can add more spaces, and you can move them around, rearrange them. When you close a desktop or a space, it just moves the windows or the applications to another to another space. And then lastly, remember, we only have one desktop folder. We do not have multiple desktop folders. We may have multiple desktops, but we don't have multiple desktop folders. We have one desktop folder, which will show all of your items, all of the files and folders that are in that desktop folder on all of your desktops. So that is how we work with multiple desktops or spaces on the Mac.